My 7-year-old daughter Harper called me from a stranger's phone, barely able to speak through her sobs. The sound that came through that phone wasn't just crying, it was the complete breakdown of a little girl's entire world. "Mommy, Grandma, and Grandpa left me at a big building. They said you don't want me anymore." Those 15 words shattered my entire world and began a legal battle that would expose something so sinister, even the prosecutor couldn't believe what the security cameras revealed. I'm Melanie Rhodes, and I need you to understand something right away. I'm a single mother who works as a pediatric nurse, and my daughter Harper is the reason I breathe. Every extra shift I take, every long hour I work, it's all for her. My parents, Gerald and Patricia Sinclair, knew this. They'd watched me sacrifice everything for my little girl since the day she was born. Harper isn't just my daughter. She's this bright, trusting 7-year-old who collects butterfly stickers and believes the best about everyone. She has these huge brown eyes that light up when she laughs, and she still insists on wearing her favorite purple backpack everywhere, the one with glittery butterflies all over it. She's the kid who shares her lunch with classmates who forget theirs and who makes get-well cards for patients at my hospital. My parents were supposed to be watching her that Tuesday. They'd done it hundreds of times before. Gerald, my father, had just retired from 30 years at the Postal Service. Patricia, my mother, had managed a dental office before deciding she wanted to spend her golden years being the perfect grandmother. They lived in this beautiful house with a pool and a playroom they'd set up just for Harper. Every wall covered with her artwork, every shelf filled with toys they'd bought her. They were the grandparents everyone wished they had, or so I thought. What they actually were, what the investigation would reveal, was something none of us saw coming. Two people who had spent 2 years documenting my every move, building a case to steal my daughter and teaching her to doubt the one person who loved her most in this world. The call came at 4:17 p.m. on a Tuesday that had started like any other. I was in the middle of placing an IV for a 6-year-old patient when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Something made me answer it. Maybe it was mother's intuition, or maybe it was just the fact that unknown numbers during Harper's after-school hours always made my heart skip. The woman on the other end identified herself as Francine Oakes, director of Willowbrook Children's Home. When she said my daughter was sitting in her office, that my parents had dropped her off claiming I'd agreed to surrender custody, my entire body went cold. Not the kind of cold you feel in winter, but the kind that starts in your bones and spreads outward when you realize something terrible has happened. Harper's voice came on the line next, so small and broken. "Mommy? They said you don't love me anymore. They said you wanted them to bring me here because I'm too much trouble. But I've been good, Mommy. I promise I've been good." In that moment, standing in the pediatric ward surrounded by sick children and worried parents, I felt something inside me shift from shock to rage. Not the hot, explosive kind of rage that makes you scream. This was different. This was the cold, calculated fury of a mother whose parents had just committed the ultimate betrayal. They hadn't just lied to me. They hadn't just abandoned my child at an orphanage like she was unwanted property. They had looked my 7-year-old daughter in the eyes and told her that her mother, the person she trusted most in the world, didn't want her anymore. They had taken her for ice cream first, let her order her favorite strawberry cone with rainbow sprinkles, and then drove her to an orphanage while she sat in the back seat, probably still sticky from the treat, completely unaware that her grandparents were about to shatter her sense of security forever. What the security footage would later show made even veteran police officers shake their heads in disbelief. My parents, these two people I'd trusted with the most precious thing in my life, stood in that parking lot for 12 full minutes after leaving Harper inside. They were laughing. Actually laughing. My mother did a little celebratory dance. My father patted her on the back like they'd just accomplished something wonderful. Then they high-fived each other before getting in their car and driving away, leaving my baby girl sobbing in a strange office, believing her mother had thrown her away. But here's what they didn't count on. They underestimated me. They underestimated Harper, and they definitely underestimated how seriously the law takes premeditated child abandonment when it's caught on camera, documented with forged papers, and witnessed by professionals who've seen enough to recognize a conspiracy when it walks through their doors. This is the story of how my parents tried to steal my daughter by breaking her heart and how their perfect plan led them straight to federal prison. Until that Tuesday afternoon, I thought I had my life figured out. As a pediatric nurse working 12-hour shifts at Children's Memorial Hospital, I'd built a careful routine that balanced my career with raising Harper. Every morning started the same way. Harper would crawl into my bed at 6 a.m., her stuffed butterfly clutched in her arms, and whisper, "Mommy, is it a school day?" I'd pull her close, smell the strawberry shampoo in her hair, and we'd plan our day together. My parents, Gerald and Patricia Sinclair, had been the missing piece that made everything work. They lived just 15 minutes away in a 2-story colonial house where I'd grown up. The same house where my mother had measured my height on the kitchen doorframe, where my father had taught me to ride a bike in the driveway. Now that doorframe had Harper's measurements too, and that driveway was where she'd learned to roller skate just last summer. "You focus on your career, sweetheart," my mother would say every Monday when she picked up Harper's overnight bag for their weekly sleepover. "Being a nurse is important work. You're saving lives. We've got our little butterfly." That's what they called Harper, their little butterfly, because she was obsessed with them. It started when she was 4, and we visited a butterfly garden. She stood perfectly still for 20 minutes until a monarch landed on her finger. From that day on, everything was butterflies. Her backpack, her lunchbox, her bedroom walls covered in butterfly decals. She could tell you the difference between a painted lady and a red admiral, knew that butterflies taste with their feet, and had memorized the entire life cycle, from caterpillar to chrysalis to wing. My father had retired early from the Postal Service specifically to help with Harper. He'd worked the same mail route for 30 years, knew every family in a 6-block radius, and had perfect attendance until the day he turned in his badge. "I've got a new job now," he'd announced at his retirement party. "Professional grandfather." He meant it too. He was at every school play, sitting in the front row with his ancient camcorder. He taught Harper to play checkers, to whistle, to tie her shoes using his special bunny ears method. When she lost her first tooth, he helped her write a 3-page letter to the tooth fairy asking about dental hygiene in fairyland. My mother had been equally devoted. She'd managed a dental office for 15 years but gave it up without hesitation. "I've spent enough time with other people's teeth," she'd joked. "Now I want to spend time with my granddaughter's smile." She was the one who braided Harper's hair every Tuesday and Thursday, who knew exactly how she liked her sandwiches cut, who had memorized every character in Harper's favorite cartoon shows. She kept a drawer full of art supplies at their house, and their refrigerator was a gallery of Harper's creations. The arrangement had been perfect. On my long shifts, they'd pick Harper up from school at 3 p.m. She'd do homework at their kitchen table while my father made his famous chocolate chip cookies. My mother would help with math problems using jelly beans as counters. They'd have dinner together, usually Harper's favorite mac and cheese with little hot dog pieces that my mother cut into butterfly shapes. I trusted them completely. Why wouldn't I? These were the people who'd raised me, who'd been married for 38 years, who'd built their entire retirement around being grandparents. When other nurses complained about childcare costs, I felt grateful. When single mothers at Harper's school talked about their struggles, I felt lucky. Looking back now, the signs were there, subtle but persistent. Comments at Sunday dinners about how children need 2 parents. My mother's tight smile when I missed Harper's school play because of an emergency at the hospital. My father's jokes that weren't really jokes about how modern women try to do too much. "Harper needs more stability," my mother had said just a month before that Tuesday. We were sitting in her kitchen while Harper played in the backyard. "All these irregular hours can't be good for her." "She's doing great," I'd responded, watching Harper chase butterflies with a net my father had bought her. "Her teachers say she's thriving." "Teachers don't see everything," my mother had replied, and something in her tone should have warned me. But I was tired from working 4 nights straight. I was focused on making enough money to keep our apartment, to pay for Harper's ballet classes, to save for her college fund. I didn't see that my parents weren't supporting me. They were documenting me. Every late pickup became evidence. Every missed event became ammunition. Every exhausted moment became proof that I was failing as a mother. They were building a case against me while smiling to my face, hugging me goodbye, and telling me what a good job I was doing. At 4:17 p.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown number while I was adjusting a young patient's IV drip. Something made me answer immediately. Maybe because unknown calls during Harper's after-school hours always set off my maternal alarm. Is this Melanie Rhodes? The woman's voice was professional but carried an undertone of concern that made my stomach tighten. Yes, who is this? This is Francine Oakes, director of Willowbrook Children's Home. I have your daughter Harper here. She says her grandparents dropped her off about an hour ago. The pediatric ward around me seemed to tilt. I gripped the metal rail of the patient's bed. What do you mean she's there? My parents are watching her today. They picked her up from school. Ms. Rhodes, I need you to understand what happened here. Your parents arrived at 3:25 p.m. with Harper. They told my intake staff they were surrendering custody. They had paperwork claiming you'd agreed to this, that you couldn't handle being a mother anymore due to your work schedule. My clipboard clattered to the floor. Papers scattered across the pristine hospital tiles. They said what? The documents appear to be forged, Ms. Rhodes. We've seen enough fraud attempts to recognize suspicious paperwork. But what concerns me more is Harper's emotional state. She's extremely distressed. They apparently told her they were taking her for ice cream, then brought her here instead. My supervisor, Nancy, rushed over as she saw me sway. I waved her back, forcing myself to stay upright. I need to speak to my daughter, right now. There was a shuffling sound, then Director Oak's gentle voice in the background. Harper, sweetie, your mommy's on the phone. She wants to talk to you. The sound that came next will haunt me forever. Harper's voice, usually so bright and confident, was broken into pieces. Mommy, Grandma said you don't love me anymore. She said you asked them to bring me here because I'm too much trouble. My knees buckled. Nancy grabbed my arm, guided me to a chair. Harper, baby, listen to Mommy. That's not true. None of it is true. But Grandpa said you've been pretending. He said you work so much because you don't want to be home with me. He said they were doing what you wanted but were too scared to do yourself. Each word was a knife twisting deeper. Harper, I'm coming to get you right now. I'm leaving the hospital this second. Mommy's coming. They laughed when they left, she whispered. And this detail, this small observation from my 7-year-old made bile rise in my throat. Why did they laugh, Mommy? Why did they drive away so fast? I don't know, baby, but I'm coming. Mrs. Oakes is going to stay with you, and I'll be there as fast as I can. Director Oakes took the phone back. Ms. Rhodes, there's more you need to know. They didn't just drop her off and leave immediately. They spent 20 minutes filling out intake paperwork, describing you as negligent, work-obsessed, and emotionally unavailable. They provided a detailed list of your supposed failures as a mother. I stood up, adrenaline overriding shock. I'm leaving now. There's significant traffic on Route 47. An accident has everything backed up. It might take you several hours to get here. I don't care if I have to abandon my car and run. I'm coming. Nancy was already at the nurse's station, grabbing her keys. Take my car. It has GPS. I'll handle your patients and explain to administration. I ran through the hospital corridors, my white nursing shoes squeaking against the floors. Other staff members jumped out of my way. I burst through the emergency exit, setting off alarms I didn't care about, and jumped into Nancy's sedan. The drive that should have taken 1 hour took 4. 4 hours of absolute hell. The highway was a parking lot. I called my parents 17 times. No answer. Their phone went straight to voicemail after the 3rd attempt, meaning they'd turned it off. I called Director Oakes every 20 minutes for updates. Harper's asking if you're really coming, she'd say. I keep telling her you are. Let me talk to her again. Mommy? Harper's voice was getting hoarse from crying. The lady gave me juice and cookies, but I can't eat them. My tummy hurts. Baby, Mommy's stuck in traffic, but I'm coming. I promise you I'm coming. Can you be brave for me? I'm trying. The lady is nice. She gave me a butterfly coloring book, but I want you. During those 4 hours, Director Oakes filled me in on more details. My parents had brought a folder of documentation, photos of me looking exhausted, records of every time I'd been late for pickup, a log of missed school events. They'd presented themselves as concerned grandparents trying to save their granddaughter from a neglectful mother. But here's what gave them away, Director Oakes said. They were too prepared, too calm. And when Harper started crying and begging them not to leave, they didn't comfort her. They just walked faster. When I finally burst through Willowbrook's heavy glass doors at 8:23 p.m., Harper was curled in a ball on Director Oak's office couch, clutching a butterfly coloring book someone had given her. She looked so small, wearing her favorite purple dress with butterflies on the pockets, the one my mother had bought her last Christmas. Her face was blotchy and swollen from hours of crying. She looked up at me with those huge brown eyes, searched my face for half a second to make sure it was really me, then launched herself into my arms with such force I stumbled backward. "You came," she sobbed into my neck. "You really came. I thought maybe they were right. Maybe you weren't coming." "Always, baby. I will always come for you. Always." I held her tight, feeling her whole body shaking against mine. Her hair smelled like strawberry shampoo and something else, the antiseptic smell of this place that my baby never should have seen. Director Oakes quietly closed her office door, giving us a moment while Harper clung to me like she was drowning, and I was the only solid thing in an ocean of confusion. After a few minutes, Director Oakes cleared her throat gently. "Ms. Rhodes, we need to discuss what happened. Your parents didn't just drop Harper off. This was calculated, orchestrated." I shifted Harper in my arms, but she refused to let go, so I held her while Director Oakes continued. "They told Harper specific things during the car ride. She's been repeating them to me. They said you'd been lying to her for years, that you never wanted children, that they'd been protecting her from knowing how much you resented her existence." My hands started trembling as I held my daughter tighter. They told her those things. There's more. We have security footage from our parking lot and entrance. After they left Harper with us, they stood outside for 12 minutes. Our cameras caught them very clearly. They were celebrating, Ms. Rhodes, high-fiving each other. Your mother did a little dance. Your father patted her back. They were laughing as they got into their car. Harper stirred in my arms. "They said you only pretended to love me because you had to," she whispered. "Grandma said once I was gone, you'd be happy again." That's when my grief transformed into something else entirely. Not rage exactly, but a cold, crystal-clear determination. I pulled out my phone, my hand perfectly steady now, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "I need to report an attempted child abandonment. My parents just tried to surrender my daughter to an orphanage without my knowledge or consent. They forged documents and emotionally abused her. I'm at Willowbrook Children's Home on Maple Avenue. Please send a detective from the Crimes Against Children Unit." Director Oakes nodded approvingly. "I'll prepare all our documentation and security footage." Within 40 minutes, Detective Raymond Cortez arrived. He was in his early 40s, wearing a wrinkled suit that suggested he'd been called in from home. He took one look at Harper, still clinging to me, and his professional demeanor shifted to something more personal. "I have 3 kids myself," he said quietly. "We're going to handle this right." He interviewed Director Oakes first while I held Harper in the next room. Through the thin wall, I could hear him asking about the forged documents, the intake process, what exactly my parents had said. Then he came to talk to me, kneeling down to Harper's eye level. "Harper, I'm Detective Cortez. I help kids when adults don't treat them right. Can you be brave and tell me what happened today?" Harper looked at me, and I nodded. "It's okay, baby. Tell him everything." Her voice was small but clear. "Grandma and Grandpa picked me up from school. They said we were getting ice cream for being good at my spelling test. We did get ice cream. I had strawberry with rainbow sprinkles. Then they drove somewhere else and said it was a surprise. When we got here, Grandma told me that Mommy didn't want me anymore, that I was going to live here now with other kids whose mommies didn't want them." Detective Cortez was taking notes, his jaw tightening with each word. "Did they say anything else?" "Grandpa said Mommy asked them to bring me here but was too cowardly to do it herself. He used that word, cowardly. I remembered because it's from my vocabulary list." The detective looked at me. "Ms. Rhodes, is there any custody dispute? Any reason they'd think they had legal authority?" "None whatsoever. I have full custody. Harper's biological father signed away rights before she was born. My parents have no legal standing. They're just grandparents who I trusted to babysit." "This is criminal," Detective Cortez said, standing up. "Attempted abandonment, forging government documents, intentional infliction of emotional distress on a minor. Based on this evidence, I'm issuing arrest warrants tonight." Director Oakes handed him a USB drive. Everything's here. Security footage, audio from our intake desk, the forged documents, everything. Detective Cortez took the drive, then looked at me. They're going to face serious consequences for this. Are you prepared for that? I looked down at Harper, at my little girl who'd been traumatized by the people who were supposed to protect her. They broke my daughter's heart and tried to steal her from me. I'm prepared for whatever comes next. The next morning, my parents were arrested at their country club during their weekly Wednesday golf game. The local news happened to be there covering a charity tournament, and their cameras caught everything. My mother, wearing her pink golf visor and matching polo shirt, screaming about her rights as police officers, placed handcuffs on her wrists. My father, usually so composed, shouting that they were saving Harper from a neglectful mother who cared more about work than her own child. The footage went viral within hours. Grandparents arrested for abandoning granddaughter at orphanage became the headline that destroyed their carefully maintained reputation in our community. But the real shock came 3 days later when Detective Cortez called me into the station. Harper was at school with a trusted family friend, Sandra, who'd offered to help after hearing what happened. I sat in the harsh fluorescent lighting of the interview room while Detective Cortez spread out evidence photos across the metal table. Melanie, we searched your parents' house with a warrant yesterday. We found something that changes everything about this case. He showed me a thick blue binder labeled simply MR documentation in my mother's neat handwriting. Inside were 2 years' worth of surveillance on my life. Photos of me looking exhausted after night shifts, time-stamped and dated. A log of every single time I'd been late picking Harper up, even if only by 5 minutes. Records of every school event I'd missed, complete with photos of Harper looking sad, though taken from angles that exaggerated her expressions. 2 years? My voice cracked as I flipped through page after page. They've been planning this for 2 years? Look at this, Detective Cortez said, pointing to a document dated 6 months ago. They consulted with Gerald Morrison, a family lawyer who specializes in grandparent rights, when he told them they had no case in this state, that working long hours doesn't make you an unfit mother. They started developing this plan. He pulled out another evidence bag containing printed emails. Your mother wrote this to your father 3 months ago. Phase 1 complete. Harper asked today why Mommy doesn't love her like other mommies. Soon she'll prefer us completely, and Melanie won't fight when we suggest permanent custody. I stared at the email, reading it 3 times before the words fully registered. They were poisoning her against me. It's called parental alienation, and it's a form of child abuse, but there's more. Detective Cortez pulled out a final document that made my blood run cold. It was a draft custody petition, dated for next month, claiming I had voluntarily abandoned Harper at Willowbrook and that they, as concerned grandparents, were seeking emergency custody to protect her from an unstable mother. They were going to use the orphanage drop-off as evidence that you'd abandoned her, he explained. If Director Oakes hadn't been suspicious, if she'd processed Harper as a voluntary surrender, your parents would have had documentation showing you'd given up your child. Prosecutor Denise Holloway joined us then, her expression grim. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp eyes that had probably seen too many family betrayals. Ms. Rhodes, I've reviewed everything. This isn't just attempted abandonment anymore. This is conspiracy to commit custodial interference, intentional infliction of emotional distress on a minor, forgery of government documents, and criminal child endangerment. These are felony charges. She pulled up more evidence on her laptop. We've also found text messages between your parents discussing how to make you look unstable. They deliberately scheduled things during your work hours, then photographed Harper's disappointment. They told her subtle lies about why you worked so much, planting seeds of doubt over months. One text from my father to my mother read, Melanie looked particularly exhausted today. Get a photo when she picks Harper up. Another piece of evidence that she can't handle motherhood. They were building a case to steal my daughter, I said, the full weight of it hitting me. The security footage from Willowbrook is the nail in their coffin. Prosecutor Holloway continued, the jury will see them celebrating after abandoning a 7-year-old who was sobbing for them not to leave. Your mother actually says on camera, she'll thank us one day for saving Harper from that life. The trial was set for 6 weeks later. My parents tried to get bail reduced, claiming they were pillars of the community, but Judge Martinez denied it after watching the security footage. Anyone who could coldly abandon a crying child while celebrating, she said, is a flight risk and a danger to that child's well-being. During the trial, the full extent of their plan emerged. They'd researched Willowbrook specifically because it was understaffed and might not scrutinize their paperwork too carefully. They'd practiced their story about being concerned grandparents. They'd even researched whether security cameras could capture the parking lot, but had incorrectly assumed the cameras only covered the entrance. Harper had to testify via closed-circuit television from another room. Her small voice was steady as she told the judge everything they'd said, everything they'd done, how they'd laughed as they drove away while she screamed for them to come back. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced them each to 3 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release, followed by 10 years of probation with a permanent restraining order protecting Harper and me. It's been 6 months since that Tuesday afternoon when my parents tried to throw away my daughter, like she was nothing more than an inconvenience to their retirement plans. 6 months since Harper called me sobbing from a stranger's office, believing the 2 people she trusted most in the world when they told her I didn't want her anymore. The changes in our life have been profound. Harper still has nightmares sometimes, waking up at 2 a.m. calling for me, terrified I've left her somewhere. When that happens, I hold her tight, and we list all the reasons we know we love each other. Because you make me butterfly pancakes, she'll whisper. Because you sing off key to make me laugh, I'll whisper back. We go back and forth until she falls asleep again, secure in the knowledge that she is wanted, she is loved, she is mine forever. We're in therapy together twice a week with Dr. Jennifer Reeves, who specializes in trauma from family betrayal. Last week, Harper drew a picture during our session. It showed just the 2 of us standing together, surrounded by butterflies. This is my family, she told Dr. Reeves firmly. Me and Mommy, that's all the family I need. She doesn't call them Grandma and Grandpa anymore. When she has to reference them at all, she calls them the people who lied. It breaks my heart that she lost her grandparents, but they made that choice when they decided their need for control mattered more than her emotional well-being. The ripple effects have spread through our entire community. Other families from Harper's school reached out, sharing their own stories of toxic grandparents who used love as a weapon. I've connected with 3 other single mothers who are now documenting their own parents' concerning behaviors, protecting themselves before it's too late. My supervisor at the hospital, Nancy, helped me adjust my schedule so I never work more than 3 12-hour shifts in a row. The hospital's HR department even created a new policy supporting single parents after hearing what happened. No parent should have to choose between providing for their child and protecting them from family manipulation, the policy states. Director Francine Oakes sends us cards on holidays now. In her last one, she wrote something that made me cry. In 20 years of running Willowbrook, I've never seen a mother fight harder or a child love stronger. Your parents tried to break something unbreakable. They failed because they never understood that love isn't measured in hours spent together, but in the certainty that someone will always come for you, no matter what. Detective Raymond Cortez stopped by last month to check on us. He brought Harper a book about butterflies and told me something I'll never forget. Some people see single parents as easy targets. They think because you're doing it alone, you're weak. They don't realize that doing it alone makes you stronger than they'll ever be. Your parents thought they could document your exhaustion and call it neglect. They never understood that exhaustion was evidence of your dedication. The legal consequences for my parents extend beyond prison. They've been ordered to pay for Harper's therapy, which will likely continue for years. They've lost their positions at the country club, their standing in the community, and most of their friends. Their house, the one where I grew up, sits empty now with a "for sale" sign in the yard. Sometimes I drive past it and remember the good memories before I learned that love could be conditional, that parents could be predators. My parents are scheduled for release in 2.5 years. Harper will be 10 then, old enough to understand fully what they did, old enough to decide if she ever wants them to know who she becomes. I've already made my decision. They will never be part of our lives again. They didn't just try to steal my daughter, they tried to steal her ability to trust, to love freely, to believe that the people who say they love you actually mean it. But here's what they didn't count on. Children are resilient when they have even one person who fights for them. Harper knows now with absolute certainty that I will always choose her, that my love isn't dependent on convenience or retirement plans or maintaining appearances at the country club. Every morning, Harper still draws a new butterfly and sticks it on our refrigerator, but now she signs them differently. Love, Harper and Mommy, the perfect team. And we are. Despite everything they tried to steal from us, we are stronger, closer, and more certain of each other than ever before. My parents thought they were saving Harper from me. Instead, they taught us both that the family you choose to keep is more powerful than the family you're born into. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they really are. My parents gave us that gift, and we used it to build a life without them, a life filled with truth, trust, and butterflies that no one can ever take away. If this story resonated with you, if you've faced family betrayal or know someone who has, please share this video. Your story matters, and you're not alone. Leave a comment below about how you've overcome toxic family relationships or how you're protecting your children from manipulation. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more real stories of survival, strength, and the unbreakable bonds between parents and children who choose each other every single day.